It's okay. I won't hurt you.
Guys, welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, we know that Hollywood is continuing this seemingly never-ending assault of taking every animated film that we hold near and dear to our hearts and hopefully not butchering it into a live-action adaptation, and thus has come the time for an animation that is honestly one of my most beloved, and that is How to Train Your Dragon. The plot itself is identical to the animated original, but just in case you know nothing about it, How to Train Your Dragon is set on the Viking island of Berk. This small community is constantly ravaged by dragons, and Hiccup, the son of the leader of the village, is not what you would consider a typical Viking, often shying away from the conflict, or is just plain useless. But after an accidental injury befalls one of the dragons, Hiccup strikes up a remarkable bond with the elusive Night Fury, whom he later calls Toothless. And so, it's up to Hiccup and Toothless to prove to the Viking village that perhaps dragons aren't as monstrous as they once thought. I think it would be an incredibly tall order to find someone who, at the very, very least, doesn't at least appreciate the How to Train Your Dragon movies. For me, they're like a comfort film. Escaping to this far-off island, flying through the sky on the back of a dragon, the inseparable bond between Hiccup and Toothless, and of course, one of my favourite film scores of all time. The first film, released 15 years ago now, is borderline close to perfection. So of course, that meant it was bound to get the live-action treatment. Now, what I'm about to say next, you're gonna hear a lot in this review. The 2025 live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon is identical to the 2010 animated film, besides the visual presentation. And when I say identical, I really, really do mean it. Down to shot for shot, line for line, more so than we have seen in any other remake prior. In a way, it's almost like it's belligerent to attempting to do something different, and I have both positives and negatives about that. Because the animated film is a bona fide classic with great story and terrific characters, as a result, this film has those too. It sticks to that first film screenplay like glue, even down to just small interactions. The inseparable bond that forms between Hiccup and Toothless still warms my heart. I thought that the individual performances, they all do a good job. Mason Thames doesn't quite have the goofy charm that the animation had, but his earnestness and plucky attitude made him a confident leading presence. Nico Parker, I thought, was great as Astrid, capturing her confidence and determination very well, and Gerard Butler reprises his role as Stoic, and there really could not have been a better fit. The music is once again scored by John Powell, and it still gives me goosebumps. The director of all of the animated films, Dean DeBlois, he is back in the director's chair for this one, making that transition from animation to live action, and I think he's made that transition very well. The film looks good. The practical sets that have been built to bring Berk to life in a tangible way are impressive. The visual effects look pretty damn impressive. You've got dragons that have a lifelike quality to them, but still retain their original animated design. Hiccup and Toothless having their iconic test drive sequence, it still gave me all the butterflies that I had when I continued to watch the animation. However, and we were bound to get to my negatives at some point, is that besides now seeing the film told in a live action perspective, there is nothing different here. Literally nothing. None of the positives that I just praised this film for are directly down to creative decisions that this film made. They all hinge on the animation. So whilst it was nice to see Dean DeBlois come back and direct this film, making the switch from animation to live action, there's part of me that thinks perhaps he wasn't the best director to do this. Perhaps we could have got another filmmaker in who would have taken some inspiration from the original and given us a new perspective. That may sound incredibly risky because the animation is such a classic. But at the same time, I feel like I would respect the film a heck of a lot more if it made some bold, different decisions rather than just be a carbon copy. And because the film is exactly the same, I almost couldn't watch it as a normal film because I kept taking moments and comparing them to the animation. I tried not to, but it was a very difficult task to avoid doing that in the first place. That's not to say, though, that the movie did anything bad. In terms of adapting the animation, it hardly put a foot wrong. But in a way, I think the best analogy that I can give it is that imagine you're going to a concert and you are seeing a band perform and they announce that they're going to do a cover of a song that you love, but rather than put their own spin on it, they sing it exactly like the original. And so therefore you can appreciate that it's being sung well and they haven't butchered it. But at the same time, if you were given a choice between the two, would you rather listen to the original or this cover version that is pretty much the same? I think 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to choose the original. And that's exactly the situation that I found myself in watching this remake. I also don't think all of the casting succeeded. Nick Frost's Gobber, I thought, lacked much of the kooky attitude that Craig Ferguson brought, and the merry band of misfits Hiccup trains alongside needed a lot more of that maniacal energy. I thought that much of them and their performances felt very half-hearted. And another downside of sticking to the original so damn closely is that they repeat a lot of the same jokes. Even the way in which they're delivered, so there's nothing fresh about it, and therefore I didn't think that a lot of the jokes landed because I'd been heard them told before, and I'd been heard them told better. As I have said time and time again with every remake that comes along, I am by no means opposed to them, so long as they are able to take the story, perhaps give it a new lease of life for a new audience, or improve upon some of the flaws from the original, all in the purpose to justify its own existence. In the case of How to Train Your Dragon, I struggled to find that purpose because of how identical it conducts itself, almost refusing at points to stray into doing anything different. But that being said, I can't say that this is a bad film, nor that I didn't enjoy my time watching it, because it's the same movie. I still got swept up in the classic boy and his dragon story. The music and visuals are still impressive. I think it's just incredibly difficult for me to judge this film, and I think that my opinion about it is gonna constantly shift. So, at the time being, taking everything into consideration and just telling you how I feel about the film now, I am going to give the 2025 live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon a 7 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on the live action remake of How to Train Your Dragon. Let me know. Have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I feel like we've had this debate about films that should be remade and films that shouldn't. I honestly think if you're going to look to a remake of film, maybe look at some films that were poorly received or didn't quite succeed in the way that you'd intended and what you can improve upon. So therefore, my question is going to be, what film that was either poorly received or massively flopped would you like to see be remade? But this is all the time we have for today. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.